Lent began this past week, and I received several different mailings from the Unity Church, and they talked quite a bit about Lent. Well, my experience growing up in the Southern Baptist Church with Lent was null and void. I mean, it was just something that the Catholics did, and a few other churches. I had some friends that were very devout Catholics, and they followed Lent every year. I mean, as kids, they were giving up candy. As we got to be teenagers and young adults, they were giving up booze and other things. But it surprised me, and I kind of admired them that they had the belief system that led them to let go of these things that were pretty important in their life. Apparently, they did it all the time, so it had to be important in their life. They were giving up something, and that kind of, at first, I admired it. And then it started occurring to me that on Ash Wednesday, they gave up the drinking, and on the day after Ash Wednesday, they were planning the party they were going to have when they were allowed to drink again. And to me, that wasn't really giving up something. That wasn't what I thought Lent was supposed to be when I was admiring them. But I was young, I was working all the time, I was admittedly partying with them when they got done, and so I just didn't pay any attention to it. Well, Kathy and I started going to a church back several years ago that did a 40-day experience. It was a Baptist church, but it was this really cool 40-day experience they did from Ash Wednesday to Easter, and part of that was giving up something, to sacrifice something. And at the time, it was something I really liked, but as I look back on it later, it was like, okay, well, we got guilted into this because the terminology that was used was, Jesus died for you, what are you going to give up for him? Okay, to me, that's guilting somebody into doing something. That's not doing something from your heart. So again, I just kind of let it go. Didn't really tune into it, didn't search it. Well, like I said, about a month ago, I started getting mail, letters and emails and little pamphlets from Unity and talking about Lent, and it gave me a new understanding of it. So, instead of doing what I saw all of my buddies do and what I see a lot of people still do, which is giving up smoking for 40 days just to start it up again, I thought, how cool would it be if you gave up things that no longer worked for you and gave them up for good? To me, that's what Lent is about, or what it should be about anyway. Give up something for good that no longer serves you so that you can make room for something that serves your highest good, for something that connects you deeper. So today, and I'm sure that other people are doing it as well, but today I want to talk about how we can use Lent to give rebirth, to awaken or expand our spiritual life. Now, the first thing that we do have to do is we really do have to give up some things. We have to make room for anything new. If you have your hands full of junk and you want the diamond, you can either balance it on top and hope it stays there, or you can release everything so that you have room. Making room is pretty good. So I found this beautiful article about giving up, and I thought it was just perfect for this. The first one is to release your old definitions of what religion is. Release the belief that God is a certain way if it doesn't serve you. Release what you have been taught about your connection with God if it is anything other than you and God are one. Release it. Because those things, those old, tired, worn out beliefs and teachings do not work. Jesus did not teach that. We go back to Jesus all the time. Jesus taught, I and my Father are one, and so are you. He taught it. So release all of that. Release the old belief system. Open yourself to the new. To the new thought is what we're all about, is the new thought. And it's not that these thoughts are new, it's just that we're seeing them in a different way all over again. The next one is remove the illusions of being separate from God. We talked about that a little bit, but if you see God as something sitting out there on a cloud, or sitting over there in some sort of paradise, or anywhere outside of your own heart, release that belief. God is everywhere present, which means He is in every single cell and molecule and atom and whatever the tiniest part of us is. God is in it. And we have trillions and billions. Just have so many of those, and He's in every one of those, or she, or it. Depends on who you talk to, on what gender God is. I used to hate it when a former pastor of ours called God it. Like, it just depersonalizes it all. Well, it's true, because God is in everything. There is no separation, so release any illusion that you have that you are separate. Release anything that prevents you from seeing through the eyes of God. Anything that stops you, any judgments, any old beliefs, any limitations. When you see through the eyes of God, you are seeing love in everything. You are seeing connection in everything. The guy that pulls out in front of you and on the road that you want to throw a certain finger up at or yell a certain word out, stop. Take a breath. There might be something going on there that we don't know about that would change our whole attitude. And if there is something going on that would change our whole attitude, then why don't we just go ahead and change it? Why don't we just go ahead and see that person through the eyes of love, see that person through the eyes of God, see the divinity in that person, and let it go. I mean, how much less stress would you have in your life if you were able to do that? Just let it go. Somebody at the office crosses a line that nobody knew was there except you. Let it go. It's not worth it. It's not worth taking it back. Let go of anything that keeps you small. We're not small. We are absolutely amazing. We're one with God. How can we be anything less? We talk about essence and discover all the time. Essence is our truth. That's our connection to God, to universe, to your highest good, to source. You know, there's so many different names. For me, it all comes back to God. You can let it come back to whatever you want to, but it is that one thing, that one energy, that one experience that totally transforms your life. If you're not living from that, you're playing small. Okay? Give up comparing. That also says give up judgment. Don't compare yourself to anybody else. Don't compare your abilities to anybody else. Don't compare your degrees to anybody else. You're absolutely perfect. When you're living from your spiritual self, you are absolutely perfect. And that means that even when you're living from your body, you're absolutely perfect. There's no right, there's no wrong. It's an experience. That's what we're here for, is to experience. And when you see it from the spiritual self that you're here to experience, then how can anything be wrong? So cut out the comparing, because when you start comparing, you start seeing right, wrong, good, bad, working, not working. Okay? Cut that stuff out. Give up fear of change. Change is scary. I have not been able to give up the fear. I have been able to step farther through in a lot of cases. Sitting here was one of my fears. That was a huge fear. It's like, how can I sit up here and talk God to you guys? You know, what if I mislead you? Well, number one, I can't mislead anybody, because they're going to hear it in the way that they want to hear it, and then they make their own judgments. They make their own choices to do with that what they want. That's the same with any change. We have a fear that change is going to either blow up in our face, or Billy's not going to like what I chose to change on this project out front here, or we're going to make up all kinds of stuff. That's all fear. But it boils down to the fact that if we act from our highest good, if we do what we truly think is right and best for everyone, then everybody has a choice. They can interpret it how they want to. I can't control that. So all I can do is do what I feel is the best thing possible. So, give up your fear of change. Give up your need to control and your need to be right. That's hard. Because we know, oh yeah, I'm acting for my spiritual self. I know what's right. I can bring that card out to play. That's not what acting from your spiritual perfection is. Okay? Being right means that you have to make somebody else wrong. And in that, you hurt the other person. So just drop. You don't need to be right all the time. It gives you a sense of peace when you can let that go. Kathy and I have practiced for 21 years now, almost 22. Choose to be happy rather than right. It works. It works. She's put up with me for this long. That's pretty good. 21 years. Just this past Monday was our anniversary. Yay. Let's see. Give up self-abuse. We're all good at this one. We can beat ourselves up unmercifully when we do what we think is a mistake, when we take a wrong step, when we become angry with somebody, whatever the case may be. We do something that goes against our essence, and then we see it from our essence, and we can find a way to beat ourselves up for it. We pop back out of essence, and there we are. Stop doing that. If you make any move you make, if you make it from your spiritual goodness, is going to be perfect. It may look like a total wreck, but it's going to be perfect. So just let it be. Let it be whatever it is. Trust that your oneness with God led that step. And you may never see the end results of it. But I promise it works out best when you can come from that place and when you can give yourself a break. Practice self-care. And we'll talk about what to do a little bit. Give up blaming. On the radio show this week, I did a whole show about blame. And I'm not going to get too much on that tangent because I will end up going way too long today. But blaming is nothing more than being a victim. When we find ourselves in a place that we can point the finger at somebody else or another situation, we have given up all of our control and we have claimed victimhood. We're not victims. And I talk about Discover often, another thing, and I point to them because they went through Discover with us. One of the tools, there were 26 tools in Discover, and one of those tools was there are no victims, only volunteers. And I hated that. I hated that with a passion. I fought it for years. I just refused to believe that I volunteered to live through some of the stuff that I lived through. And I didn't. I did not volunteer for my son to come to this earth and die, but I did volunteer how I reacted to it. His action of dying was his volunteering. That was his choice. And I don't understand that, and I may not understand that for a while. However, my choice, my volunteering, was how I reacted to it. I wasn't a victim to that. I just chose to act a certain way, and it kind of looked like I was a victim, and I started blaming. I did all that whole stuff. Okay? So stop blaming. Blaming only pulls you further and further and further away from your essence, away from your spiritual perfection. Every time you even think blame, you're pulling yourself out of that perfect spot. Now, don't beat yourself up on it. We just talked about, the self-abuse thing. If you find yourself blaming, don't go beat yourself up. Just say, "Oh, that doesn't work for me now. I'm going back to being in control of my life. I'm going back to being one with God. I'm going back to living my purpose." Blaming that person over there doesn't fit in with all of that. So let go of blaming. Give up complaining is another. We can complain. We can gripe about this weather. And the people in the Northeast, and the friend of mine who talked to me yesterday, or Friday I guess it was, about the high the other day was 22 below, I'd be complaining. I would be griping. My life would end because I'm going to be cuddled up inside that, right in front of that fire. She was a beautiful example, though, of, I just put on an extra layer to go do my walk. Are you nuts? Stop being tacky to yourself, yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's exactly what we do. We complain, and most of the time it is about something that we do have. We can just change our interpretation, change our perception of it, and we'll be in a much better place. Give up any limiting beliefs. You truly can accomplish whatever you choose to do when you work from a spiritual self towards your spiritual highest good. You can do anything you want. And along the way, there's going to be a whole lot of stuff in this world, this physical body, that will take shape as well. And here's one that's kind of tough. Give up bad friends. We hang on to friends because we should hang on to them. We hang on to friends because we might look bad if we distance ourselves. Give up bad friends. These are great friends. We're never giving them up. Y'all are not on our give up list. Yeah. And then, last but definitely not least, and certainly it's probably not even last. You can probably continue down this thing of things to give up. Give up the past. Giving up the past is very simple when you realize that you can change your interpretation of what happened in the past. You can change the past. I use my son as an example all the time. For several years there, I saw his death as being a horrible, horrible accident, a horrible incident in my life, a horrible situation that I had to deal with. Once I started this journey, this personal growth, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it, once I started that journey, I was able to look back and see that experience as a life-changing moment. I was able to see that as a gift because it started me thinking about there has to be more than this crap that I'm living at this point. There has to be more to life. I was able to change that from a horrendous act to a beautiful experience. Does not mean I don't miss him. I still miss him. But it wasn't as horrible as I thought it was. If you can change that, you can change anything. Every experience offers us something. So if you see it as negative, change it. What good can you find out of it? What beautiful lesson can you pull from it? And when you do that, you give up the past as you knew it. Okay? So, those are the things that I suggest giving up. What we've talked about before, and what I want to remind you of, is when you give something up, when you make space, the universe tries to fill it. And if you don't put something in there that you want, you're kind of just leaving it up, luck of the draw. It might be something really cool. It might be the same stuff that you just let go of. But something's coming back in. So I went in, and I wanted to talk about that, but I wanted to look at it from a Lent standpoint. So I went in and I looked up Lent. My favorite thing to do is go to Webster. And Lent actually comes from the Anglo-Saxon word which means spring. Has nothing to do with giving up. It comes from the word that means spring, which in turn is derived from the Germanic word or root, which means long. All of this put together means the days are lengthening. It's the spring of the year. It's the time for new birth, for growth, for coming to life. So I put together my own list of things that we can rebirth and fill the void that we just made for all the things we gave up. Birth a new belief in you. Believe that you can do whatever it is you need to do. Believe that you are one with God. Believe that you are absolutely perfect, just as you are. Believe that your spiritual self is truly in charge. My favorite saying is, we are spiritual beings, have an incredible human experience. The human experience goes away, the spiritual doesn't. So birth a new belief in you, and be sure that you're believing in the true you, not what the world says you are, not what that commercial says you are because you drive a certain car. Believe the truth about you. Open yourself to new possibilities. A real good friend of mine has a series of classes that's all about saying yes. You know, we get so caught up in the what if it goes wrong, and we say no to it. Well, change your thought process a little bit. What if it goes right? Say yes. You know, we're pretty powerful. We're pretty resilient. You can say yes, and if it doesn't work the way you want to, you can say, that's just kind of a fun experience. Let's go on to the next one. Okay? So give yourself possibility. Spring into your greatness. Believe that you are truly great. This is not an egoic thing. We talked just a few minutes ago about every single molecule in our body has God within it. If we are one with God, if we are made of God, how can we be anything but great? If we buy into the illusion that the world keeps pitching at us, we're going to find all kinds of things that we lack in, that we have failed at. That's not our truth. That's not at all our truth. Allow positive perceptions and interpretations. That, like we talked about before, you can change your past by just seeing things in a whole new way. See things from a positive side, through God's eyes, and see how your life and your interpretation of life changes. Rejoice in opportunities to change. The world will give you many opportunities every single day to change. Up until now, if you are like me and normal, not that I'm normal, but if you're like me and what the world calls normal, I should say, you have just balked at every opportunity to change, or many of them. You've run from them. An opportunity to change is something scary. That's where that fear comes in. Well, we let go of the fear, so we don't have that anymore. So just rejoice. Embrace it. Take it. Create enlightened spiritual practice. Whatever that means to you. Meditate. Read. Sit down and look out at the woods and just notice all the beauty. Whatever it is, some way that you can connect with God, some way that you can connect with your spiritual self, your spiritual perfection. Connect with that. But whatever it is, create some sort of sacred ritual, if you will. Something that's a non-negotiable act that you do every single day. And it doesn't have to be hours. It can be 15 minutes. It can be 5 minutes. It can be whatever it is. Just start something today. Start a spiritual practice. Forgive others. Forgive situations. Forgive self. Let go of all the blaming. Just forgive. It opens you to pure love. And then last but not least is live large and live complete. Know that you are perfectly capable of whatever you set your mind to. And however that ends up, whatever the results are, know that it's complete. You may want to come back to it and add to it later on, but what you did right then was complete. That way you can take some satisfaction in it. You can embrace your goodness and your accomplishments. Let Lent be a time for spiritual rebirth. If you need to let go of some things, let go of some things. If you need to add some things, add some things. But look at Lent through those eyes. Don't just give up something for the sake of giving it up and then, Easter Monday start it all over again. If you want to do that, that's fine, but just don't let that be all that Lent is about. Let Lent be your spiritual rebirth.